We are now going to be having 12 shiurim on 12 perakim. These are the 12 perakim of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and I think it's very important before Pesach to get to know these 12 perakim. Now, there's stories and there's medrash and there's teachings from the Gemara that has been gotten around. To know the full story from beginning to end, what the Torah says, what we can learn from the actual psukim, and what actually happened as the Torah says it, I think is very, very important, and that's the purpose of this share. So let's dig in. This is shiur 9. This is Perak Tests. We finished off Perak Ches with power refusing after the Makkah of Orev, and that was the mixture. And although I kept saying swarm, I meant that the mixture swarmed. The reason why we translated it as insects is because insects are a mixture of different types of animals. According to Torah classification, there's winged animals and there's creepy crawling animals, etc., etc. These are ones that both live on water, they live on land, they live underneath the ground, they creep and crawl, plus they also fly. So that's why insects, arachnids, and the like are all considered a mixture. That's most likely the translation of Orev. And of course, it follows from blood to amphibians to lice to make sense that mixture now went ahead and swarmed over the entire Eretz Mitzrayim, covered the ground, and also inside the houses. Perak Test starts off. Hashem said to Moshe, "Vayal Paro, speak to Paro, V'dbarti love and speak to him. Say to him, Call Yabar Hashem. So said Hashem, like Abraham, the God of the Abraham. Shalach Zami Yavduni. Send a nation, so he served me. Ki Yemai Nato l'Shalayak. If you send them, the Oitcha, and further, Mechazek Bam. You continue to hold on to them. Behold, Hine, behold, the Yad Hashem, Haya, the hand of Hashem will be, but Miknecha on the livestock Hashem Basadeh, that's in the field. Basusim, on the horses, Bachabayrim, and on the donkeys, Bagmalim, and on the camels, a bucker, on the cattle, Watzayin, and the flock. Dever Kavod Ma'od will be a great and heavy pestilence that will happen in Mitzrayim. Behifla Hashem, and Hashem will separate Miknei Yisrael between the livestock of Yisrael, Miknei Mitzrayim, and the livestock of Mitzrayim. V'loyamos Mechal Livnei Yisrael Davar. From the Bnei Yisrael, nothing will die. So here we have proof that Bnei Yisrael owned their own flock, their own cattle, their own livestock, because they had animals and they weren't going to die. So Hashem was saying, I'm going to separate them. Also, Hashem is saying that this Makkah is now going to be on the animals, which means, although the lice was on man and beast before, it didn't really kill the beasts, it didn't kill the animals, it just had lice on the animals, and it was very, very uncomfortable for the mitzrayim and uncomfortable for the animals. Here, Hashem is going to attack specifically the animals. So no longer are we going from the annoyance plagues. Dam, Tzevardeya, Kinim, Arev are all the annoyance plagues. Here, we're now going to actually attacking animals. And Hashem set a time saying, Machar, tomorrow, Yasa Hashem Adavar Hazeh Ba'aretz. It's going to happen tomorrow in the land. So it doesn't say Be'eretz Mitzrayim, it says Ba'aretz on the land. But Yasa Hashem Hadavar Hazeh B'machros. Hashem did exactly this the next day. Again, Moshe Rabbeinu, no involvement. Vayamas Koil Miknei Mitzrayim, and all the livestock Mitzrayim of the district of Mitzrayim, not Eretz Mitzrayim, but the district in Mitzrayim, Goshen, and the surrounding areas over there. Miknei Bnei Yisrael Lo Meis Echad, but yet the Miknei Yisrael did not one of them die. So we know that from previous psukim that there were Egyptians living in Goshen. There was also Egyptians living in the district of Mitzrayim. They had animals. Those animals died. The animals of Bnei Yisrael did not die. Notice what the pasuk says. It says susim, horses. So later on, when Paro goes ahead to chase after Bnei Yisrael at the Yam Suf, where did Paro get all the susim from? The answer is that was the susim with the rest of Eretz Mitzrayim. This is the only Makkah that only affected Mitzrayim proper, not the entire country. Vayishlach Paroi, and Paroi sent Vihine, and behold, Loi Meis Miknei Yisrael Ad Echad. Paroi sent messengers to the district of Goshen, a tradition of Mitzrayim and Goshen. Parai's heart still was heavy. He did not send the nation. So Parai actually investigated. He was told and warned that there was going to be a separation between Bnei Israel and Mitzrayim, and we see that it only attacked that area, and yet it only attacked the Egyptian animals. What the ones that were living right next to Egyptian animals did not get attacked. Those are Bnei Israel. Parai saw that, yet his heart was heavy, and he did not decide to send Bnei Israel out. Break. So after Parai refused to let Bnei Israel out, after Dever, Hashem said to Moshe, Aaron, Kichu, Lachem, take for yourself Maloi Chafnav, fistfuls of Piach Kivshan, of the soot of a oven, was Roikim Moshe Hashemayman, and Moshe will send it up to the sky, will throw it up to the sky, like any Parai, the eyes of Parai. V'hayel avak, and it'll turn to fine dust. I'll call it Mitzrayim, the entire country Mitzrayim. It'll linger on the entire, all in the air. V'hayel adam, it'll come down on man. V'albehema, an animal. L'shchin, peireach, abu uber ice, and it'll be like boils that are festering and infected. B'chal Mitzrayim, on the entire country of Mitzrayim. V'yichu es piach kivshan. So he took some soot from a oven, the Yamdu, the Parnay, stood before Parai, the Israel guys of Moshe Shemaima, and Moshe sent it up to the sky. So they stood before Parai. It must not have been in the palace. It must have been when Parai was outside the palace. It could have been by the Nile River. It doesn't say, but it seemed like he was outside. They met Parai outside, or in the courtyard by the palace. He threw it up to the sky. By Yishchin, Abu Boy's Pareach, and it became boils that were opening, festering, and affected by other Mehema on man and beast. And the necromancers couldn't even try to turn back the Shchin or reproduce the Shchin because they couldn't even stand before Moshe because of the Shchin, because they themselves had the boils. Bechatumim b'chol Mitzrayim, was on the Chatumim, on the necromancers, and all of Mitzrayim. V'yachzek Hashem es lei Parai, and Hashem hardened the heart of Parai. V'lo yishama aleihem, and he did not listen to them. Kasher dibar Hashem Moshe, exactly like Hashem spoke to Moshe. So Parai did not listen to them, even though Moshe didn't really say anything this time. He just made a makkah, but he didn't listen, and he knew what the quest was. He knew that it was Shalach Hasam Yolavduni. He knew about that. Send up my nation so they may serve me. He knew about that. He did not listen. He did not send up the nation. Although the Torah did not specifically say that Goshen was spared from this makkah, it seems like, again, after Dever, Goshen was spared, and the Sukkim, in context, going further, is going to talk about how Goshen was spared. So it seems like it makes sense that instead of Goshen also suffering these great boils that festered and affected, the Bnei Yisrael and Goshen were spared from this one as well. And Hashem said to Moshe, Hashkem Boiker, wake up early. V'sasiv leParai, and send in front of Parai, again, probably by the Nile River. V'mar love, and say to him, Ka Yamar Hashem, Lekei Ivrim. So says Hashem, the God of Ivrim, Shalach Hasami Yavduni, send up my nation so they may serve me. Ki Pama Zois. But now there's more instruction. Hashem had more to say this time. Because this time, I could have sent all of my plagues onto you, into your heart, and your courtesans, and your nation, you know that there's none like me in all the land. So Hashem is not going to send all the plagues that Hashem has. It's going to be one, but it's going to be a sign of all that Hashem can do. And Hashem is saying, El Libcha, on your person, but also in your heart. So you will know, true that Hashem is one, and there's none other like him. There's none of the deities in Mitzrayim can hold up. Ki ata, shalachti es yadi, because if I send my hand, Yach, and further, Aishcha yasamcha bedaver, and I send a pestilence also, for you and your nation, I will remove you from the land. However, I restrain myself. And it's because of this that I restrain. So you should see my hand. So you should say my name in all the lands. That's why I spared you. Otherwise, I could have destroyed you already. I could have sent all my plagues at once. You continue to deceive and my nation, to refuse to send them out. You keep changing your mind every single time. Hineni. So therefore, behold, there will be mamtir ka'es macher. Like this time, there will rain tomorrow. Bared kaved ma'od, a great and heavy hail. Asher loy haya kamayhu b'Mitzrayim. There was never like so in Mitzrayim. Lemin hayoim, from this day havavazda the ad ata, the day that Mitzrayim was established as a country until now. V'yata. And now, shalach ha'ez es mincha, you should send out a edict that all of the livestock, the es kol asher l'cha basada, and everything that's in the field, kol adam, every person, babahema, and animal, asher yamatzeh basada, that is found in the field, lo yesef habaisa, that does not gather in the house, but yared aleihem abard, the bard will rain down on them, but mesu, and they will die. The livestock, the cattle, the flock, the people, everything that's found outside will be destroyed. So before I attacked specifically the livestock, and then I attacked specifically the people and the livestock. Now what I'm telling you is your houses may seem safe, but outside there will be nothing that will be safe. Basher, and it was, Loisam Liba is the Hashem. The word those did not place their heart towards the words of Hashem. They didn't believe in this. V'yazov es avadav v'yesmiknei vasada, and they left their avadav and their livestock and their possessions in the field. Hashem said to Moshe, this presumably is the next day. Stretch out your hand, al shamayim, to the sky, vayihi barad, and there will be barad b'chol eretz, in all the land of Eretz Mitzrayim, entire country Mitzrayim, al adam, on man, val behema, and on animal, the al kol eseb asada, and all the foliage of the field, the Eretz Mitzrayim, the land of Mitzrayim, the eight Moshe Mateyu, Moshe stretched out his staff, al shamayim, on to the heavens, Hashem nasan koilai barad, and Hashem sent thunder and hail, v'tahalech eish arza, and fire that was burning upon the ground, v'yamter Hashem barad al Eretz Mitzrayim, and that is how Hashem rained out the barad on the country of Mitzrayim. V'hi barad, there was barad, be'eish, and fire, mislakakas b'soicha habarad, that was flaming up and combusting in middle of the barad. So barad is coming down, and there's fire on the ground, and even though barad is of ice and water, the fire was getting even bigger. It was completely contradictory. Kaved ma'oid asher loy haya kamayhu b'chol Eretz Mitzrayim. It was so great and heavy, there was none like it in the all Eretz Mitzrayim. The uz haisa l'goy. From then, when it became a nation, in all the history of Mitzrayim, they never had barad like this. So now they have barad like this. They never had barad that rained so heavy, but they also never had, obviously, fire that was burning the ground simultaneously. The yacha barad, so the barad struck b'chol Eretz Mitzrayim, the entire country of Mitzrayim, is kol asher v'sada, everything that was in the field, man and animal, v'yes kol esev hasada, and all the foliage that was in the field, hika habard, was struck by the barad, v'yes kol eitz hasada shiber, and all the trees in the fields, they broke. Rak be'eretz Goshen, except in Eretz Goshen, Hashem b'nei Yisrael there, lo barad, there was no barad. So while this pasuk specifically tells you there's no barad, I learned the context that Shekhinah is probably not in Goshen either. V'yishalech Parah v'yikru l'Moshe l'Aaron, and Parah sent word, and he called Moshe and Aaron. Vayomer Aleim, he said to them, Chotasi apam, I have sinned this time. Hashem atzadik, Hashem is righteous. V'ani v'am Yerushalayim, and me and my nation, we are the evil ones. Hisiru Hashem, please plead to Hashem. The Rav michais kolis elikim barad, because there is great still the thunder, the sounds of God, ubarad, and the hail, v'ashalcha eschem, but I will send them, v'loi tosifu lamoid, and you do not need to remain anymore in Mitzrayim. Vayomer elev Moshe said to him, there was no negotiations this time. Notice there's no negotiation. Moshe just says this, Kitseisi Yesa'ir, when I leave a city, Ephroish es kapi el Hashem, then I'm going to extend my palms to Hashem. The thunder will cease, and there will no longer be any hail. Laman tedas, that you know, ki Hashem haaretz, because to Hashem is the land. The lands belong to Hashem. So Moshe didn't ask who's going to get to go out, and Parah didn't restrict the numbers that would get to go out. Moshe said, This time it was just to show that Hashem is strong. I know that you're not sending us out at this time. However, to show that we don't believe in your real righteousness, I'm going to wait till I leave the city. I'm not going to do it this second. You're going to suffer still. Let me leave the city. And by the way, why did you have to leave the city? Because what was outside the palace? Outside the palace was Barad. Moshe was saying, I am not afraid of Barad, but Barad will not rain on me. You will watch me walk unmolested from this Barad and from the Aish outside the city, and then I will daven to Hashem that it should stop. Not to daven to Hashem so I can leave the palace and it was any benefit to me to stop it now while I'm still in the palace so I don't get hit by the Barad. No. I will walk through the Barad and the Aish unmolested completely, and you will see that is when I will daven to Hashem, and then it will stop. This is completely for you. This is nothing to do for me. V'yata v'avdecha, for you and your servants, yadati, but I know, kiterem tirun, that you still do not fear. Mifnei Hashem Elikim. The only fear you have is when there's a makkah going on, but you still have no fear before Hashem, God. V'apishta v'asa'ira nukasa, but the flax and the barley, they were bent, they were broken. Kiasa'ira aviv, because the barley was in the springtime, so it was starting to bud. V'apishta givoil, and the pishta was starting to bud, so the stalks were fully formed and they were broken by the bird. V'achita, but the wheat, v'kisemes, Emer Lai Nuchu, they were not broken. Kia Filais Hena, because they were still in their soft stage. They still weren't fully ripe. They were still in the soft stage and they were able to bend underneath the Barad. We talked before about what time the Makkahs were and how long they were. So if Barad was at a time when it was early spring and the barley was already starting to form and the wheat was getting in its budding stage and it was slowly in just a few weeks or a month away from actually being grown, so that would make it the end of Shvat, the earliest, most likely in Adar. So we have Adar, and then we have half of Nisan for the Bnei Yisrael to go out. And we know that from later Psukim we'll see that the Choshech really happened before Nisan. So therefore, for each Makkah to have, now we have Arba Choshech still to take place, and Makkah's B'chayres, for each Makkah take a month and a weeks of warning, that makes sense. We don't know how long the Makkahs were, but it seems like at least the end ones came very fast before the Geula. V'yetze Moshe min Parai, so Moshe left from Parai, El Esair, the city, V'yifrosh Kappa El Hashem, and he extended his palms to Hashem, V'yachtlu HaKolos V'abarad, so then the Barad and the thunder ceased. Umater Loi Nisan Arza, and the rain did not reach the ground. In a way, it seems like it stopped in midair, that whatever was raining all of a sudden stopped and never reached the ground. It went either back up to Shemayim or disappeared, or whatever it was. When he held out his hand, it finished. And the time it takes for a hail to go from Shemayim to the ground, just a few seconds, so it stopped suddenly and no more did it rain down. Vayar Parai ki chodal hamatar v'habarad v'kolos. So Parai saw that there was relief now. There was no more any raining of the hail. There was no more thunder. V'yosef lachtoi. So he continued to sin. V'achved libai, and he made his heart heavy. Hu v'avodav, him and his avodav, they were resistant again. V'yechzag le Parai, and Parai's heart became strong. The loy shilach as bnei Yisrael, and he did not send out bnei Yisrael. Kasher dibar Hashem biyad Moshe, just like Hashem said in the hand of Moshe. Interesting here, it doesn't say Kasher dibar Hashem el Moshe like in previous times. In previous times, Hashem said that I'm going to harden Paro's heart. And he said it to Moshe. This says Kasher dibar Hashem biyad Moshe. Moshe was already telling bnei Yisrael what was going on. Now that all the Makkos relief came to Goshen, and now that they were no longer suffering, it seemed like all work at this point must have been done, that they were no longer doing any of the work, because now everything was disruptive. Once again, when Hashem said, I'm going to make a separation between my people and Mitzrayim by the Dever, from then on, it seems like, or implied from these psukim, that there was no more Avdus. And therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to then go ahead and tell Bnei Yisrael in Goshen what was going on. And Moshe kept saying, by the way, there's still going to be more makos. So exactly like Hashem said, even though the more makas came, that Paro did not send them out. So that's why it says Biyad Moshe in the hand of Moshe. That refers to when Moshe is the Navi for Hashem and talks to Bnei Yisrael. And that's what's implied over here, and this is Parak Tes.